Hello everyone, this is Jack with Let's Draw Today. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope you are able to join me and follow along with me as we take a look at this photo and try to sketch this mouth with these teeth. So we are going to look at this photo in particular because I thought this was a good example of symmetry. And there are many things in life and in art that are symmetrical, and there are many times we want to try to draw something that is symmetrical in nature. So for that reason, it's really good to practice symmetry. Symmetry creates balance. Balance is one of the principles of art, so it's very useful thing to keep in mind. All right, so looking at this photo here, to start with, the paper that I have here is a small sheet of paper. It's 6 inches by 4 inches. And as you can see, I drew a line down the middle of the paper. This is one of my axis lines. And I just put the indication of the ends of the horizontal axis here on each side of the paper. And the reason that I did that is because since I want the focus of this video to be on symmetry, I wanted to just keep the line down the middle. This can also be considered the line of symmetry. And as you know, with symmetrical objects, they are the same on both sides. So with this particular reference photo that we have of these teeth, this particular mouth is very symmetrical in nature. And most objects, or well, I should say most natural objects, things that you find in nature, including people, people are symmetrical, but not necessarily perfectly symmetrical. So there are some areas where we could fluctuate and we don't have to be exact, but in general, this is something that might help you if you're struggling with symmetry. So I thought I'd share this with you. Now that we have one side of the mouth sketched, now we're going to attempt to mirror the image on the other side of the line of symmetry. Right, so, and again, for the most part, it's going to be very close. It's not going to be necessarily perfect symmetry because it is a mouth, but still this will give us hopefully some good practice with incorporating symmetry into your sketches. All right, so let's see. I think we'll kind of start the same way that we did here by just making that lower edge at the top lip first. And we'll try to make somewhat of a mirror image, mostly, for the most part, but I am still using the reference, and I am, if there are a little bit of differences here and there, then I might incorporate those as well. Another thing we can keep in mind is looking at like horizontal alignments to see where things align horizontally. So if, for example, for the corner of the mouth, if I might want this corner of the mouth to align with this corner of the mouth. So as I'm sketching this lower edge, I'm keeping that in mind. I'm looking at this part, this left corner of the mouth, and I want to make sure that this aligns with that. And we'll be doing that throughout the sketch, just to maintain that symmetry. Oh, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit because I wanted to go to the top teeth, the upper teeth next. Okay, so now let's look at the next incisor. Okay, we're just going to try to mirror what we see. And by mirroring, that means we're going to essentially look at the spacing, and we're going to try to get, in general, the same amount of width and everything. One thing I can do is I can use my pencil as a bit of a measuring tool and measure this tooth and bring it over here. And that gives me an idea as to, maybe I should do it this way. That gives me an idea as to the width of the tooth. So right about here. And this is, again, just a rough estimate. It might change. I might alter this as things go on, but it gives us an idea as to how to maintain the same kind of width, and that can really help to keep things symmetrical. And now as I look at the edge of this tooth, it goes up a little more at an angle than this first one, according to the reference. But again, if we're just trying to go for symmetry, then we don't have to make a big difference there. All right, now let's take a look at the next one. We can take our pencil and make a quick measurement. All right, so that tells us that this tooth, we can place it right along here. Now, this particular method that I'm showing you, it's not going to work for every time you draw teeth, especially from a reference photo, because most of the time there are different angles that people have their heads, and so it's not going to be a straight-on headshot for every time you try to draw someone's mouth and their teeth. But in this particular case, since we're just practicing with getting things symmetrical, it is quite okay to do what we're doing here with the measuring on each side. And, regardless of what, you may not be drawing a mouth, you may not be drawing teeth, but you may be drawing something else, and it may be something totally irrelevant of a mouth or a human. Even it could be some kind of other man-made object or some kind of abstract design. But if you want to create symmetry, this is just kind of measuring back and forth is one way of helping with that. Okay, now let's see. Let's look at the canine next. All right, so I've got this, and again, for all of these, I'm just kind of doing the lower part of the tooth, but it's up to you to decide which part you want to measure. You just want to make sure that you keep that in mind when you sketch it on the other side. All right, now we can also take a look at the upper edge of the tooth, just like we did on this other side, on the first side. Okay, now we have a bit of a chiseled edge and a flat edge to the tooth here on this side. All right, now as for the 3 remaining teeth here, this might be a little bit different because over here we do see a little bit more of the teeth on the reference photo. So I am going to, we'll still take a measurement, but I'm going to make it a little bit, just slightly more than what our measurement shows us. So let's pretend let's say that the teeth end right about there. And just like we did here, we're going to indicate the top edges of each tooth. Okay, so let's say that first one is going to be right about there, and these may not be the same as what we have over here. They may be a little lower. We'll take a quick check. Well, they're pretty close to being the same. So, all right. So let's say that's going to be right about there, about the same level as this one, and this one's a little higher. Okay, and then we'll put that one right there. Okay, these are definitely not angled inward as much as the ones on the first side. I mean, they still are angled inward, but we can see a little bit more of it, maybe because more of them are in the light. All right, so that pretty much does it for the teeth, which whenever you're drawing a mouth, that's usually the hard part for people. Now we can check the lower edge of the lip, just to check our spacing between the gum line and the edge of the lip, just to make sure it looks good compared with the reference. Okay, and it's looking like, from what I can tell, the spacing looks pretty good. Okay, so now we can go on and do the lower lip. Okay, again, we're just going to start by sketching that top edge of the lower lip, and we're accounting for how much space we have between the top edge of the lip and the bottom edge of the top teeth. And we're making sure we don't put too much or too little space in between those areas. All right, so now that we have that, we could go ahead and look at the teeth that are tucked under those upper teeth. Okay, we see some highlights here, so we don't necessarily see all the edges of the teeth. Okay, but we see, I mean, we don't necessarily see the edges between the teeth, but we do see some of the edges, like the top edge here in between these two. And we don't always have to draw the edges in between all the teeth, especially if we don't see them, especially when they're hidden down here, because the shading can take care of that when we work on the shading part. All right, so now that we've got that, we can take a look at working on the corner and the lower edge and upper edge of the lips. Okay. All right, again, we have a lot of symmetry happening even with the corners of the mouth. We can look to see how this edge is angled, how this particular line is angled at the corner. We could have that same kind of angle as we sculpt the corner of the mouth. We can look at the corner, the lower lip at the corner of the mouth, and see how it's angled away from that corner. And we could mimic that same angle on this side. And then as we form the lower part of the lip, we can look at what we have here, and we're going to try to mimic that same curvature. Okay, one thing you can also do is look at where certain parts of the line bend, and then you could bend it at the same spot on this side. So if I have a kind of like, using horizontal guidelines, so I could see that I've got a bend of the line right about here. Okay, the line bends a little bit more here. Then we take it all the way up. And, well, it doesn't bend so much here, but I guess what I'm trying to say is we can use these kind of horizontal guidelines to see how much of a bend or how much of a slope we should put in the lines, just so we have that mirror image more, so we can get it more effectively. And it's okay if it's not perfect, but you just want to strive to achieve the most symmetrical appearance that you can. All right, looking at the top, we're going to go ahead and sketch this out too. And we get, just like we did on this side, we're going to get closer and closer to that inner corner. All right, so that, I think that does it for our outline of the mouth. And we can see that we have a pretty decent amount of symmetry on either side of this line of symmetry. And hopefully that helps you when it comes to drawing a mouth with symmetry as you try to practice drawing mouths yourself, whether it's this particular drawing or other drawings that you do this week, or anything that you happen to draw that has symmetry in it. All right, so we're going to go ahead and try to do a little bit of shading to wrap this up. However, before we get to the shading, I do see one correction I want to make. As I look at the photo, I see that the lip, which I initially blocked in to be here tentatively, I see now that I want to bring that up a little bit higher, so it's not quite as thick down here. Compare it with the top lip. So we're just going to make the bottom of the lip right about here instead. And then we'll just bring the lines to the edges on either side. And then we'll erase the excess. And we'll see if that looks a little better. And I think it does, so we'll go with that. And while we're at it, we will erase the guidelines that we have here. We'll erase our line of symmetry and any other little light guidelines that we see here and there. As always, I hope that you were able to learn something from this, and even better if you were able to do it along with me. And that's always a great thing to do. And an even better thing to do is when you are able to take anything that you learn from a video like this and just apply it to something else that you happen to draw in the future. So anyway, let me know how it goes. Please let me know if I can help you in any way, and I'll do my best to do so. Until then, until the next video, I hope you continue to draw, continue to sketch, and continue to practice as much as you can every single day. And I look forward to seeing your progress. If you found this video to be helpful, please like it, leave a comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. And be sure to click on the notification bell so you don't miss new videos. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for drawing with me today.